So this is something I want to start doing. I want to start doing like a media diary on YouTube about what kind of media I've consumed, from comics to manga to video games, movies, TV shows, if I've watched any, all of that kind of stuff. I want to put it all into one video and do like a month-long list of everything that I've consumed. Now, I don't want these reviews to be like an in-depth thing. They're more going to be my thoughts and feelings, pretty surface level thoughts, unless I really want to go into something else. A little rating as well, just to catalog and kind of like remember and hopefully get some discussions about stuff that's come out recently, stuff that I've watched, maybe stuff that I've already seen that I've rewatched or played, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna categorize it to start off with. We might change the format a little bit, but I'm just hoping that you guys enjoy hearing my little thoughts and ramblings and having a nice coffee. So sit down and get ready to go through everything that I've watched, interacted with, played, media that I've consumed over the month of March 2026. So we're actually going to start with a big one, and you're going to see me going to my shelf a little bit here. The big thing that's been taking over my life at the moment, I've been trying to catch up with One Piece, actually. I've never read it before, I've never watched it either, but I wanted to get into it because I've started playing the One Piece card game. I've got all the deck boxes kind of up in this section here on my shelf. The card game is really amazing, and it's inspired me to pick up the book and start reading this insanely long-running series. I'm actually at the last volume of the Water 7 arc, which is this sprawling arc, which many people say is like one of the best One Piece arcs, one of the goated ones. I'm really enjoying it. I do have a couple of criticisms. My big things are that at the moment, the pacing is very off. And I know people say that about the show. I'm not talking about so much the pacing in terms of how things are presented. It's more so about the cadence of the words and the fights. The big thing is like flashbacks and references and world building. The world building in One Piece is absolutely incredible. It's probably its biggest draw is that the world is so fully realized and vibrant. However, Oda seems to want to shove everything into your face at the earliest convenience so you understand what's going on. And it's not really what I enjoy. I like some ambiguity to things. I don't want everything explained to me and how every little bit of the story or the world work. The coolest thing about Water 7 is that it's actually a exploration of my favorite character so far, Nico Robin. The best thing about this arc is that Oda deviates from his regular cadence. Instead of giving everything to you as soon as the character is introduced, they actually have some ambiguity to what's going on. Nico Robin is this ambiguous figure, and you only find out about what's going on with her in this arc and her backstory and why she's got so much trauma. And that suspense, because it happens over a few volumes, like the whole arc leads up to the big moment when she reveals what has been burdening her this whole time. And that's incredible. It's so much better. The coolest thing about One Piece is that there's this whole world going on in the background, and there are so many characters that are interacting with this narrative at all times that you don't always see everything. Even though you're following the Straw Hats, you don't always see everything that's happening. And that's when One Piece is at its best, when it's building up the world and when it's exploring what's going on. And that's why Water 7 has been a really good arc. I've really enjoyed it. I'm excited to keep going because this is going to be an ongoing thing. That was One Piece. Right now, I'm up to volume 44. So volume 44 is where I'm ending, right at the end of Water 7. The next thing I read this month was a Batman graphic novel that I've never read before. Batman Year One. So Frank Miller, one of the greatest Batman comics of all time. Probably the most influential on Batman as a character and his backstory. I'm not gonna lie, this is not my style of graphic novel at all, especially not my style of Batman novel. I really liked the artwork by David Musicelli. However, it's written really annoyingly. Essentially, the way that Frank Miller writes this is that he has a bunch of different scattered thoughts that enter each character's brain, and it's sprawled out onto the page with this beautiful artwork. However, it's these short, sharp sentences that are like, I thought that was good, but it wasn't. I hope that it's okay. Batman bad. That kind of thing. It's a very quick, sharp representation of what the character's thinking. Every monologue or dialogue scene where the character is telling you how they feel is written like that. And it's so frustrating to read. A lot of the time you're reading it and you're just like, okay, come on, let's get going. Tell me what you think. And I feel like it's a time wasting thing to allow you to see what's going on. I'll just read you an example. Jim is the big culprit, to be fair. Maybe it's pills. Maybe it's a heart attack. Maybe it's both. But it doesn't matter. He's out of control. His foot must be pressed. Oh no, that old woman. Can't let this happen. Come on, move. And I understand that it's like an action scene, so his thoughts are very scattered and all over the place, but it just reads very stop and starty, and it's very difficult to get into the flow of what the characters are saying because it's just so sluggish in its pace. Obviously, it's very influential, and what it sets up for the Batman mythos is fun to read, and it's a good one to go back to. Something, again, that I've never read before, but I knew everything that happened in it. It was a nice read to see where all those concepts were essentially incepted. However, not one that I'll ever go back to, and not one that I would recommend, since this kind of story has been done better in a lot of other Batman media. Now, the last book that I read is Absolute Wonder Woman. This is the 2024 run of Wonder Woman, where it's the Elseworld alternate Absolute universe. Yeah, this is written by Kelly Thompson, and I only read the first issue, but I was absolutely enamored with what was going on here. I really want to go back to it. I want to get more issues, physically especially, because the artwork is beautiful. The way that they reintroduce Wonder Woman's origin story, but obviously twist it to fit this Elseworlds version of her, is really well done. I like that Cersei is Diana's new mother, and that Diana is essentially going to be more represented by this hellish retribution than her more noble side than she was before. Also, the new character design and the artwork that is on display. There's this really good sequence where it shows Diana growing up with Cersei on the Isle, and it's depicted really well. It gets all of the information across about their relationship and who Diana is going to be and what Diana has lost in this universe. It's just a perfect single issue setup this absolute version of Wonder Woman is going to be. I really highly recommend it if you can. I'm really excited to read the next few issues. Yeah, read Absolute. I've got Absolute Batman sitting on my shelf somewhere here that I'm going to get into. Now we're into video games. I'm going to quickly re-mention my latest multiplayer obsession, which if you saw the top 5 games of 2025 video, I was absolutely obsessed with. Still obsessed with Deadlock. But something I didn't say in that video, the tough thing about Deadlock to recommend is that it is so difficult to understand the optimal way to play, and it's always changing because it's in this early access state. I am a Phantom ranked player, which is the 3rd highest rank in the game, and I feel like I'm only just scratching the surface of what is good. I'm trying to learn new heroes as well. I've recently picked up Lash when I've been playing with friends, and I feel like I only just got good. I was on like a 10 game losing streak with Lash. It's just really difficult, and you learn one character and you think you're understanding the game, and then you try another character and you lose every game. But it is the most rewarding multiplayer experience I've ever had. Really love it. Highly recommend. Obviously play it. The biggest game to come out of the year so far is this bad boy, Resident Evil Requiem. To lead up to that, I wanted to finish all of the Resident Evils that I haven't played. I still haven't played a few of them, but I thought because the new game is going to be a switch between the third-person action Resident Evil and the first-person horror modern style of Resident Evil, I have to go with those first-person modern interpretations. So I played Biohazard and Village. Now, starting with Biohazard, this game has been hotly recommended to me by one of my best friends and someone who I trust with their gaming opinion. Again, when I got into Resident Evil last year, he was very excited and he was like, when are you playing Resident Evil 7? When are you playing Biohazard? It's my favorite. It's the best. So I was going in with, unfortunately, very high expectations, especially because this has been lauded as the game that saved Resident Evil after 6 came out. I liked it, but I didn't love it. It's probably because I think I just prefer the more actiony style of Resident Evil, especially third person. And I know that's a controversial take because Resident Evil really needed to go back to that horror style to, find its voice once again after 6. But I think it's just the type of gamer I am. I'm trying to get into horror, as you'll see later when we get up to the movie side. I'm really trying to explore the horror genre a little bit more than what I had previously. And it's very difficult for me to enjoy horror as much as I do a very action-based story and a very action-based gameplay. That's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I thought that the new setting is spooky, freaky. The new way that the classic Resident Evil concepts are put into this smaller setting is really wicked as well. And wicked in both ways, in a cool way and a sinister way. And yes, it was very freaky. I shat my pants a couple times. I was playing at night only and in the dark with my headphones on. So I was trying to get the maximum experience out of this. And yeah, it got me a few times, especially with the amount of gore that is on display. I certainly do not like the shit bit. That really dragged. And I think if they just stuck to their guns and kept the Baker family to the forefront of what was going on, it could have been a little bit better, but that section really, really dragged for me, unfortunately. It slowed down the pace of the game, which I feel like was pretty expertly crafted up until that point. You never spend too much time in one place, or you never spend too much time fighting a person where it gets stale. Biohazard is still a great game, though. It was a good introduction to what the first-person Resident Evil could be. And when I started Village, I thought, holy crap, this is going to be my new favorite Resident Evil game. Because it picks up pretty much exactly where 7 leaves off, and it starts with a bang. The first half of the game is probably some of the best Resident Evil we've ever gotten. I mean, the village into Castle Dimitrescu into the dollhouse, that is 3 different incredible mixes of what Resident Evil should be. It's the action survival style, which is what the village represents. When you get up to the castle, it's the more Metroidvania-esque dungeon exploration style of Resident Evil where you're getting stalked by an enemy. And then the dollhouse bit is pure horror Resident Evil, harkening back to what 7 put at the forefront. That was super engaging, and I really, really enjoyed what 8 was trying to do. And after I got past that first half of the game, I was like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. I can't wait for what they've got in store. There's no way they can mess this up now. However, it's when we get to the fish section that the game starts to go off the rails. And I understand why people say it's a bloated mess, because it feels really concise at the start, but then when you take that first bit in totality with the second half, the problems and the cracks really start to show. Unfortunately, the factory, I enjoyed it more than the tankard, but it is that final third of the game where you get up to that final third and you're in the factory. And this happens with Resident Evil 7 as well. You get up to this big sprawling dungeon that you're supposed to go through, but it just drags and takes too long. And it really slows down the frenetic pace of the game. As well as that, it also gets absolutely ridiculous. Especially the boss fight with Heisenberg. That is stupid Resident Evil. I know that Resident Evil can get silly, which is, we'll get to why I love silly Resident Evil, but that is jumping the shark a little bit too much, or jumping the fish as it should be in Resident Evil Village. I also think that Mother Miranda is such a lackluster big bad. You have Lady Dimitrescu at the start, and even Heisenberg before he turns into his metallic abomination they're really interesting and engaging villains that you interact with. And Mother Miranda is supposed to be this person in the background pulling all the strings, making everything happen within the actual game. But when you get to her crowning moments, it just falls flat and is a bit flaccid. I also think that first-person action Resident Evil is not as compelling as third-person action Resident Evil, which is why Resident Evil 9 is so fucking good. It helps that Leon is back, and Leon, you know how I feel about Leon if you have seen this channel. Leon is one of my favorite characters ever. Resident Evil Requiem, it does a masterful job of blending everything that Resident Evil is into one package. It really feels like a celebration style of Resident Evil. The introduction of Grace and her being the modern style, the horror, the tension that it brings to the narrative is great. And the gameplay is very tight and feels really good to control. You always feel like you have agency. However, the horrors and the scares are palpable, especially in the hospital section of the game. And Leon just brings so much joy every time you play. It's this setup and release of this tension that is built when you're playing as Grace and you feel a little bit powerless, and then you come into a Leon section and go guns blazing, one-liners everywhere, incredible Resident Evil camp and action that doesn't take away from the overall story that's being built. You'd think that Capcom would struggle to juggle these two very distinct and different styles of gameplay. However, it melds so fascinatingly well that you just want to keep playing and playing. The way that it recontextualizes what happens in the earlier Resident Evils while not ruining anything from them is also incredible. There are just a few gripes I have with the game, and it's not so much a big gripe, but I feel like the Leon sections just give you a little bit too many resources. The reason I love Resident Evil 4 so much is because every combat section feels like you just have enough resources to get by, and you're really struggling to juggle all of Leon's abilities with how many resources that you have. Resident Evil 9, they just kind of chuck all of the resources in the bucket at you, which is not horrible. It makes you feel that power fantasy of being the Leon Kennedy. However, it definitely loses a little bit of tension because I just feel like I can dominate everything. I also think that sometimes the pacing is a little bit funny, even though it does a really good job of juggling everything that it's throwing at you. It does sometimes drag in the sections of the game that you might not want it to. Some sections they overstay their welcome a little bit. Resident Evil Requiem is certainly something I might make a video on more in depth later. Maybe when the DLCs come out and there's a little bit more to go on, I might do like a complete Resident Evil package review or Resident Evil Requiem package review. However, my initial thoughts are that it's my second favorite Resident Evil, probably. I just love Leon. He's so funny. He has some of the best one-liners he's ever dished out in this game, and it just makes me smile completely. I think I need to start going a little bit quicker. Again, this is my first one of these, so if the pace is off, classic Carl talking about the pace, my bad. Sorry, I'm trying. At the start of the month, I got a little bit nostalgic for some of the comedies that I used to watch as a kid in my childhood, and I went back to them. Now, the only one that made it inside the month of March was Zoolander, which unfortunately hasn't aged that great. As all of those movies were, it's certainly not politically correct. It's also, some of the jokes are just not funny. Like, I completely forgot that there is a literal, I mean, I think there's two blackface jokes, but there is one big one towards the end when Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller are like hitting the machine, and I know it's a reference to Space Odyssey, but they're in brown face makeup. Like, oh my god. It's still funny. Like, it's well constructed. It's a good comedy. But I just couldn't get past those low blows that they introduced. And it kind of soured the whole movie for me. It's not as good as you remember. Still fun, still enjoyable, but definitely don't go back to it. The next movie I watched was Empire Records, which I'd never seen before. I kind of wanted very short, sharp movies within the earlier days of the year, and Empire Records was perfect. I really enjoy movies that take place in one setting. It is kind of just riffing on Breakfast Club in terms of there's these odd bunch of kids and teenagers that traditionally wouldn't get along, but they're in a setting where they're forced to get along and learn about each other and enjoy each other's company. Empire Records does it really great because it uses the music to represent what these kids are struggling with and going through. And each member of the cast is fun in their own way. It's nice and self-contained. There were moments where I wanted to pull my hair out. I'm not gonna know anything, but, ganging up on the popular girl who is sexually active. That is such a teen movie trope that I fucking hate. But there are really good elements of this movie. Again, the way that it's all set in one small area and the conflicts intertwine in a natural way. It's just taking place in one day, in one span of time, where you get to see a day in the life of all of these characters. Feel good, it's fun, the music is enjoyable, great stuff. The next movie I watched was the horror movie of the month for me, was Talk to Me. Great Australian horror film, Raka Raka, the boys on YouTube. I don't know how they pulled this off, but they were able to think of a new concept to the world of horror that hasn't been done before, from what I know. Obviously, the possession narrative has been, but the way that the possession is done and the boundaries that are set up are really inventive and really fun to explore the horror of this situation. There are some horrific moments in this movie that had me hiding under my covers, literally, because I watched this by myself at night and I was doing these ones with my Juna cover. It was super freaky. I enjoyed the performances, but I think that the strongest part of this movie is the new concepts that they bring to it and the inventive way that they go about their horror, which will obviously keep the Raka Raka boys going for a while. Next movie I watched, not going to spend too much time on, Happy Gilmore 2. I just wanted a movie that was lighthearted. Didn't see it on its initial release, but this movie is brain rot the movie. It is only there so you can go, oh my god, that's the character I know. That's the person I know from Hollywood. It doesn't work as a real movie. I don't think it has to either. I kind of enjoyed myself watching it. I hate to say it. It's not that funny. And the only part that I enjoy is when I see people that I like in the real world, like specifically the wrestlers who are in this movie, so MJF and Becky Lynch, and I get to go, wow, MJF and Becky Lynch are in this Hollywood movie. Wow. Like, it's nothing. It's such a nothing burger of a movie. Watch it if you have some nostalgia for Happy Gilmore, I guess. Watch it if you like golf, I guess. But you knew that. You knew that going into it. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Now, the next movie, oh God, I watched some bad movies this month. The next movie fucking killed me. Another thing I started doing, aside from just watching comedies that are from my childhood, is I thought, I want some short movies. Let me watch some 2000s high school movies or some 2000s teen movies. Empire Records was actually kind of the catalyst for me wanting to go back because I enjoyed that so much that I was like, what about some other teen movies that I haven't watched? I was born in the 2000s. Maybe these will be good. Whatever It Takes is horrible. Just one of the worst teen movies I've ever seen. It is badly written, badly edited, boringly shot. The performances are so freaking weird. James Franco's in it, which is already an ick, especially because he's like the popular guy. But then, I'm going to spoil this movie because I just can't believe that this is the whole plot point of the movie. It's already weird because it's literally about James Franco and Shane West being friends with these girls, and they want to get with the opposite person's girl. So they team up to get with those girls. One of them is the popular girl, and one of them is like the nerdy, weird chick that James Franco just wants to bang. And the way that, first of all, they go about it is slimy as hell. This movie is so obsessed with sexualizing these teens that it just is so icky to get through. And the whole climax of the movie is sexual assault, the climax. The hot popular one that Shane West's character is trying to get into with is sexually assaulted because she wants to hook up with Shane West's character and then hooks up with a completely different person. Just a completely different person because the lights are off and it's played for laughs. And then James Franco's character is tied to a bed and it's supposed to be this like comeuppance moment, but he's tied to a bed in a jockstrap, and then he is like, and then is like in the party, and all of the people at the party are like, oh my God, look, it's James Franco in a jockstrap, and then they start riding on his naked body. It just is so gross. Every opportunity is just sexualizing these teenage characters, not in a way that does anything for the story, but for comedic purposes or comeuppance purposes. And I understand that that is a lot of what teen movies in the 2000s are, but in this movie, it is especially diabolical because every single interaction with a man and a woman is just to sexualize women and men, actually, just to sexualize everybody. It just sucks. It's just so bad. But the performances aren't good. The dialogue is horrible. It's just icky and gross, and I hate it. Don't watch it. Please don't fucking watch it. Never watch it. Never watch it. Luckily, I followed this up with watching The Moment in cinemas, and I've already done a review on The Moment. I'll just quickly sum it up, all my thoughts at The Moment. Did that on purpose. This is the most Charli XCX movie ever. It is self-conscious of itself. It is an exploration on what her newfound popularity in the face of brats means to what she wants and also what the general public wants to see. The Moment is not a movie in the sense that it is like a video essay about what happened if Brat kept going. I don't even think with The Moment that Brat is still going. It's more like it's dissecting itself, which is so Charli of her to do. The Moment is great. The more that I think about The Moment, the more I like it. Again, I'm not obsessed with the way that the movie is made and the filmmaking. However, I do look back on what it's trying to say. I think I'm just a Charli XCX shill. Definitely recommend it. The next movie I watched was The Craft. This one, my girlfriend has been trying to bug me to watch forever because she loves that witchy style, that aesthetic. And The Craft is fun. It's another teen movie that I watched this month. However, it's a lot more inventive with its setting. It's about a group of witches who essentially perform their witchcraft to get what they want in life and the consequences of meddling with that kind of fate. It's enjoyable. There are some pretty gross scenes in it as well. So it does a good job of being campy, but also being a little bit horrifying enough to be like, ooh, spooky, witchcrafty stuff, which is really fun to watch. I think that the performances are a little bit all over the place, and I also don't think it does the best job of grappling with the heavy topics that it's trying to introduce and really giving them the proper lip service that they need. But it's fun enough. I like how campy it is. I also like that it's a new setting for the teen movie genre. The next was another teen movie. Lots of teen movies this month. Decided to watch John Tucker Must Die, which is another teen movie in the 2000s that I never watched. John Tucker Must Die is about the seminal John Tucker cheating on essentially every girl he interacts with, and 3 girls that he is cheating on, teaming up with the loser girl to do a little takedown. It's also pretty bad. I mean, it's very similar to Whatever It Takes in terms of there's a lot of sexualization of teenage women and men. There's this one scene where John Tucker gets estrogen put into his protein shake and he starts crying like a girl because girls are sensitive. It's just a lot of stereotypical comedy crap that is trying to get a laugh out of your pre-established biases towards gender norm. And it's just not that good. John Tucker Must Die is just a by-the-numbers revenge story that the main character isn't even really a part of. She just kind of gets pulled into it because she's not popular. It's also the classic, I'm so ugly and I have no friends, but it's this really good-looking actress. It doesn't make any sense when movies do that. The suspension of disbelief is not there at all. Like, I can't suspend my disbelief. It's not very exciting. It drags. Like, it's a 1.5 hour movie. Whatever It Takes felt shorter than this, and I was hating every minute of it. John Tucker Must Die just kind of meanders through its plot points, hitting the normal beats that you think it should, and doesn't really do anything cool with its concept. Now, to palate cleanse myself from all of these teen movies and, these 90-minute movies that I was enjoying, I decided to rewatch Inception. In my opinion, Inception is probably my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. I just love how unique it is. There have been movies about going into people's minds and dreams before, but the way that Inception lays out the ground rules of how this is going to work and then executes it within the second and third act is great. I've said this before and I'll say it again. The biggest triumph of this movie is being able to exposit dialogue and the rules of the world to you and making it so interesting and engaging. This movie does not feel like 2.5 hours. It feels like a concise, solid 2 hours, if not less, because it is so well acted and so well written that it's kind of masking the fact that it is just explaining concepts to you the whole time. Not only is it so engaging to understand and figure out what these concepts are as you're getting them explained to you and how they'll work, all of those concepts that are explained to you in the first act come back in acts 2 and 3, but are also twisted again. The script is so concise. Also, the practical stuff is incredible. I know Oppenheimer wasn't that bad, but Christopher Nolan just can't mix sound to save his life. Inception is horrible at it. It's not as bad as The Dark Knight Rises, but it certainly is not good. This movie would be so much better if I didn't have to turn up and turn down the movie every time something big or something small was going on. And the last film that I watched of this month, and the last thing that I interacted with, was Project Hail Mary. I've already got a review of Project Hail Mary up on the channel. You can check that one out. But the TLDR is that it's a really enjoyable sci-fi romp that is about the friendship between Rocky and Ryan Gosling and how they are going to save the universe. It's pretty by the numbers and stock standard. I could tell what was going to happen in the movie from like the halfway point, not even a little bit before that. But that doesn't make it bad. It looks incredible, visually stunning. The build up to the big climax is one of the best that I've ever experienced in my life, and I enjoyed that the movie is allowing you to make the discoveries alongside the characters. And what Ryan Gosling is able to do is insane, super wicked. That's my content diary. I hope that you enjoyed listening to me ramble about what I consumed this month. Let me know what you think of the format. Let me know what I should change. I would really like this to become a monthly thing, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you can, like and subscribe. These videos take me a little bit to get going, so it'd be amazing if you could give me your support. If you could share it, that'd be great. Everything to help the algorithm and make this worthwhile. But thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.